What's up everyone, it's your FPL Thinking Cap Benji and welcome back to another episode of Best FPL Captain. Last game week we had Cole Palmer in at number 1. He did score a goal away to Southampton, but a 14-pointer, it's not the end of the world, but we aim for perfection on Thinking Cap and I'm looking to bounce back this weekend. Thinking Cap activated. As always, we turn our attention to last week's results, and we had 3 X's on my rankings. Mo Salah delivered an 18-pointer. He was the best premium captain. Saka should have been in 3rd. Cole Palmer, 7-pointer, should have been in 2nd place. Look, I'm satisfied with Palmer's goal. He could have gotten a bit more, but we take the 7 points and move. If you did own both Salah and Palmer last game week, and you captained Palmer, you would have only lost 11 points on that decision. So it does put things into perspective, not to mention Palmer's ranked 2nd out of the top 5 most captain players in Game Week 14 for points. So we've lost, but we've still beaten millions of other FPL managers. Moving into the 15 shortlist, and it's the same 4 from last episode. All of them keep their spots. Salah's playing in the early kickoff on Saturday away to Everton. Haaland is the 2nd Saturday alternative with a 3 PM fixture at Selhurst Park, and then we've got the 2 English boys playing the London teams on Sunday. Palmer scheduled for the late kickoff and Saka starts a little bit earlier. Let's touch on rest and expected minutes before heading into the analysis. Salah was superb against Newcastle. Everton is in Liverpool, so there's no additional travel fatigue on top of the Newcastle game. Liverpool have an extremely short turnaround for the Everton game because obviously they're playing in the early kickoff, and Salah has the most travel fatigue and the least amount of rest. His expected minutes are 83 for that game. Haaland has had the same amount of rest as Salah, but Haaland had a home game on Wednesday, so there's less fatigue, and because he's playing a little bit later than Salah, the turnaround isn't as tight, which is why I'm predicting Haaland to get 80 minutes against Palace. Both Palmer and Saka have the strongest minutes and the most rest. It's Bukayo who is on top, though. He hasn't traveled this week at all, and Fulham at the weekend, it's a London team. I expect him to play the full game. In terms of fixture selection and defensive strength, I do think all 4 teams are pretty equal this week. The goals conceded, the XGC, even the shots conceded, they're all pretty close, so I'm having to lean on other factors like matchups, injuries, and suspensions to make these decisions. And based on some of those insights, I do think Tottenham look the most targetable right now. They've just made the trip down to Bournemouth. I watched the full 90 minutes of that game, and Davies went off injured in the second half. Both Dragusin and Forster were extremely shaky at the back, and Udogie was hella sluggish in the last 20. I do think that this fixture is the most targetable. Spurs have conceded 35 chances, which is their 2nd weakest zone. I think Palmer's skill set matches nicely with Spurs' weaknesses in this matchup, and apart from the fact that it's a derby, there's not much to dislike. Chelsea also have an additional day of rest, and they have more rested players compared to Tottenham, so it could be a goal fest if Ange deploys that high line. Haaland faces a back 3 who have been quite efficient in the last few games, but their defensive numbers have them 2nd weakest behind Tottenham. I'd personally put Everton and Fulham below the 2 other teams in terms of how good the fixture is. Salah and Saka both have good matchups against their fullback, but overall, all 4 teams are very close. Cole Palmer returned twice against Tottenham last year, but he did get a penalty in that game. He does like this Spurs fixture though, as he's always maintained a good record against them, even at under 21 level. He also scored against them in the reverse fixture last season, so he's never actually blanked against Tottenham. Salah has an average historical record at Goodison Park. 5 matches started, and in those he produced 3 returns. Salah has blanked in 60% of starts in this fixture, which is quite high for Mo in historical trends. Haaland has started very strong away to Palace, recording a goal in each of his previous visits to Selhurst Park. He's got a decent home record against them as well. Bukayo Saka has started away to Fulham twice, but his only return came last season where he scored and got 7 points. Haaland and Salah compete for top dog in the game day comparison. They have the exact same return rate for their kickoffs, but Salah's data shows stronger signs of explosive potential as he boasts a 25% haul rate compared to Haaland's 19%. Mo is averaging more points at this kickoff, and he's in excellent form. His 9 points average across the last 5 is head and shoulders above any of the other 3 options, which suggests Mo has the strongest game day bias. All 4 premiums have blank rates close to 40%, which indicates inconsistency ahead of Game Week 15. Cole Palmer hasn't been performing well in these Sunday away matches. He's blanked 3 times across the last 5, and he has the highest at 71%. Both him and Saka's dataset is quite mediocre, but just 2 blanks in the last 5 for Saka does give him a good little edge heading into the game time comparison. And straight away, when you look at the game time stats, you notice Haaland's stats. They're not very good in the 3 PMs away. His numbers rank 4th in 4 out of 5 categories, but he's only started 4 matches at this kickoff time. Funnily enough, both Palmer and Haaland have basically the same numbers, 4 starts, with both returning in 1 match and blanking in the other 3. They don't seem to have any positive preference towards their upcoming kickoff, but there's a lot of room for improvement considering the sample size of starts. On the opposite side of the scale, it's Saka who's the top dog. He's got a superb record in 2 PM away matches. He's averaging 1 GA per start. He's got the best haul rate and the best blank rate, and his average points is also the best. Saka's only blank in the last 5 at this kickoff time was away to West Ham 2 years ago, where Saka missed a pen and scored 0 points. I do believe that Saka has real bias towards the 2 PM matches. It's been one of his best kickoff times across the past few seasons, and this definitely increases his appeal. Salah isn't far behind, but he's been consistent in the early kickoffs. Salah's return rate is joint top with Saka. His haul rate and blank rate is also close to Saka as well. Salah's produced 3 double-digit hauls in his last 5 early kickoffs on the road, but he just blanked his most recent one against Crystal Palace this season. He came off after just 72 minutes. Analysis complete, but quick reminder before we get into this week's captaincy dilemma, please remember my rankings can change depending on new info received before the deadline, so make sure you follow some of my socials below. And you get all of our pre-deadline updates. Link is in the video description. Now, let's get into the wildcard captain. Let's get it out of the way, guys. Wildcard cap was back in the returns this week with a cheeky Haaland 5-pointer, and to no surprise, he's back there again this week. His historical record in the 3 PMs away from home is not great, and for me, it's always hard to recommend Haaland cap when that happens. Crystal Palace also play with a back 3, which is capable of turning into a back 5, and that defense has been Palace's savior this season because it's been pretty dry up front. De Bruyne fit is excellent for Haaland. Chance volume and chance quality will increase, but I refuse to recommend captaining Haaland as long as City continue playing without a central defensive midfielder. Into 3rd place on the rankings sits Cole Palmer. I do like the fixture, guys. I'm not saying I don't. I think Spurs are weak, and that's great for Coley. Look, it's great. With Spurs looking pretty poor against Bournemouth and Chelsea having more rest, I think it's all lined up nicely for Palmer, but I haven't been that impressed with him in the last 2. He snatched the goal away from Nkunku. Look, I'm not complaining about it, but if that situation didn't happen, he'd be walking out of that game with 2 points, so it's not like I have the trust with his form either. I know it was a rotated Chelsea, a full-strength Chelsea with Jackson starting. I am a little bit more confident in Palmer, but there's a couple of red flags with the captaincy. I do think there's other players with better form at the moment, not just in other teams, but also from Chelsea, which means his goal share is lower. When we looked at his kickoff data, he wasn't the standout in any of the comparisons, and in fact, in the 4:30 PM kickoff, Sunday late kickoff, that's been his least favorite kickoff time so far. He's never returned double digits at 4:30 PM, home or away. So without that preference, without the form, and because it is Spurs, you just never know which Spurs is going to turn up. And because of all of those factors, I'm not backing him this weekend. My Game Week 15 best captain is Bukayo Saka, which puts Salah in 2nd place. Look, I think both of these guys are excellent options, but Salah's minutes are a little bit uncertain for me. I think you do get 90 if it's a tight game, but Slot has shown that even at 1-0, he's willing to sub Mo off early, and the fact that he did get the early sub in the last time they had a Wednesday-Saturday turnaround doesn't really sit right with me. I think I just don't really have a good feeling with Mo's minutes with Mo cap. I know he can deliver in 70 minutes. He's in excellent form. He'll also be the highest EO player this game week. So if you're a person who factors in risk with your captaincy decision, then maybe Salah is the best option for your team this weekend. I'm sticking my armband on Bukayo Saka this week. And look, that's not because I don't think Salah can score again. I think Salah probably does get a goal, but I'm backing Saka to have a better chance of a goal and more. That's all I'm saying. I'm sticking my armband on Bukayo this week. He's just got an excellent record in the 2 PMs away from home. He's projected the best expected minutes. He's done the least amount of travel, and he's got the most rest days, and the matchup is amazing as well. I watched the full Fulham Brighton game, and Reece Nelson pulled his hamstring just before coming off, which means a new attacker will be introduced on Saka's side. Now that's likely to be Adama Traore, or maybe they'll do, what's his name? Harry Wilson there. but I still think Nelson does very good defensive work for Fulham. He has tracked back for Marco Silva when I've watched him, and I'm not confident of Adama Traore doing as effective of a role as Nelson in counteracting Bukayo Saka's effectiveness on that right-hand side. Robinson is also Fulham's biggest attacking threat from the flanks. There's a reason that he's top of these crossing metrics and penalty area touches for defenders. He's super attacking, and I think Saka will get a lot of space this weekend. You've also got to consider that if Partey gets that header against United, if Partey scores it, then it's likely a Saka assist, which would have bumped him up to 6 points, and he'd probably clinch a bonus point as well to put him on 7. So I don't think Saka's lost any form. He's playing excellent at the moment, and if you're an EO captainer, also if you like that and use that in your decisions, keep in mind this guy has serious game potential in 15. So I'm going Bukayo Saka this weekend. Let me know who you're captaining in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed this one, then drop a like. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace.